Hi, Patricia. Hi, Patricia.
There we go. Did it unmute?
Now you're fine.
Okay. I am not seeing myself on video. Should I be?
You're on the video, Patricia.
But I am not seeing me, which is odd. There we go. Did it unmute?
Now you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am not seeing myself on video. Should I be?
You're on the video, Patricia.
But I am not seeing me, which is maybe okay. Maybe that's something I need to do. There we go. Perfect. Good.
Okay.
Maybe that's something I need to do. There we go. Perfect.
Okay. Let me test broadcasting here, because we do the broadcasting through YouTube. Can you hear me right now?
I can hear you.
Okay. There is some echoes before, so
I was hearing it too.
I unmute the other one.
Can you hear me right now? I can hear you.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, Linda is here. Hi, Linda.
Yeah. Hi, how are you?
Hello.
Linda, Patricia already come in. So I want to test the online live this broadcasting by YouTube is working. Can you click the link? I sent it to the WeChat through YouTube to see if it's okay. Yeah, on my side, I just
yeah, I saw that. Hold on.
Yeah, if you open, can you hear the YouTube is broadcasting?
Let me see.
Broadcasting by YouTube is working.
Yeah, it's working.
Click the link.
Yeah,
I sent it to the WeChat.
it's working.
To see if it's okay. Good. Okay. Fine. On my side, I just
yeah, I saw that. Hold on.
Yeah, if you open, can you hear the YouTube is
okay, good.
Good. Okay, good. I'll make you co-host. Make you co-host here. So Linda, your co-host.
Okay.
And then I think Hong will come on too, right? I'll make Hong co-host too.
Yeah.
Okay. Just in case, in case something happens. Never know.
Yeah.
Maybe
Things
I
always
lost.
happen.
I know. Maybe I lost my internet. Who knows?
Oh, I hope not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eric is come.
Eric came.
Hi,
hello, Eric.
You should unmute you. Eric, you should unmute.
Got it. How are you all this evening?
Good.
Okay, good. Hey, how are you, Eric? Yeah.
Hi.
Eric, this is Melissa. I'm the president of Southern California Asian American Teacher Parents Organization, and then Linda Liu is the Vice President. So we are hosting this event with U.S. Asian Art and Culture Association, which is another nonprofit. Linda actually is the president right now.
Yeah, I'm vice president of ACA too.
Yeah. Okay. So we are so happy you guys can be here. I hope Alan can come up soon, but Alan sent us email, says he has some, uncertainty connecting to the website because he's using his cell phone.
Oh, okay.
This several hours, but I got his answers for all the questions I posted to you. So if he's not here, I can just go ahead and read his answer. I printed out already. Okay.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for the opportunity and thank you for the forum.
Yeah,
I look forward to meeting with you and all the parents that and all the community members that join.
Yeah.
Sure. And Eric, your last name is Gamel?
Yes, Gamel.
Gamel.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. I'm so happy you guys can join us.
Eric, it's nice to see your face too in person.
As it is for you, Dr. Pat. Nice to see you. Nice to
can
meet
just call me Pat. I only put doctor on the signs.
Okay. All
you know
right.
how that is.
Yes. Well, on 1 second, I'm in our garage and the air conditioning unit is loud, so I'm going to turn it off. So there we go.
Okay. So on this forum, so far we could collect like 12 or 13 questions so far, which is emailed to us by the parents, 13 questions. Some of the questions a little bit overlapping. So our board just went over everything and then try to combine to make them, as less as possible for you guys. So yeah. So if there are some questions similar, we just ask together and then I will read and you guys can answer one by one. Okay.
Sure, absolutely.
Yes.
And are we going to alternate through the answers so that
or something to maybe you can we can use this time to try if you have some PowerPoint or some introduction for yourself, like to show from your computer, maybe you can try share screen. Let's see.
For myself, I'm all set.
Yeah, I'm all set too. I thought it was going to be a regular Zoom call, so I didn't prepare anything to share.
Okay.
But my question is that as we ask questions or as you ask questions, are we going to keep the same order for answering, or are we going to alternate through the three of us so that if you ask the first question, if Pat answers it first, I answer second, then Alan's read third, do we then for the second question, I answer first, Alan's is read second, Pat answers third, and then kind of go through that way.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, we can do that. That's no problem. Yeah,
perfect.
That's no problem. Yes. But when I will introduce start from the order from Dr. Pat and then Eric and Alan. That's my introduction. I cannot go back to again. So I'll just do that way. Okay.
Yeah.
So when I introduce, I will share your website to the audience. So I will, give a basic summary and then I will say, okay, Dr. Pat is going to give her introduction by herself. She will start to talk and then you can talk. Okay. Is that good? Okay. So you can have more self-introduction to audience.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I saw at the end, there'll be an opportunity for anyone that joins to ask additional questions.
Correct. With the last 30 minutes from 8:30 to 9, we're going to open to the audience. I think there is audience probably going to talk by phone and then directly ask you question, and then you guys just go ahead to answer. If you're ready, just go ahead alternate answer the question. And then if there is someone that posts the question in the chat area, I will go ahead to read it. I think Linda also monitored the questions, which is if it's not repeated question. If a repeated question, we're not going to ask you to answer anymore.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can take a little bit of rest now. We wait for more parents to come at 7 o'clock. You can just take some drink, have rest.
Yep, I'm gonna stand up and walk around a little because anticipating sitting for 2 hours for my, get myself ready for that.
Yeah.
Good planning.
Okay, I'm just watching the audience come in right now. We keep have people come in already. Yeah, I think our board member Jenny already come in.
Ready for a while too.
I think I saw Alan come in, but I'm not sure. Alan, are you here?
I'm here. Sorry, I was muted there.
Oh, okay. Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. I'm gonna try to stay on as long as I can for this one, but as I mentioned in the email, there
Sure.
something came up that was supposed to happen the last weekend, but now it's moved.
Okay.
So we'll do our best to get this as long as possible.
Sure. Thank you for coming. No problem. I got all your answers. So if there anything happen, I can just go ahead, help you to read the answer. Okay.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, no problem.
And Melissa,
So,
yeah,
yes.
we can start.
We can start?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, we have 14 participants right now, so we can just start it. Okay, so it's 7 o'clock. Okay, first, I want to introduce myself. My name is Melissa Chen. I'm the president of Southern California Asian American Parent Teacher Organization, which is a non-profit organization. Our mission is to actually provide a better education opportunity for local students, including volunteering, academics, excellency, all the leadership skills, working together with local schools and parents, helping students develop their potential skills so they could become a globally engaged citizenship, okay? So I'm so happy to host this event also with Linda Liu is our vice president. She's also from US Asian Art and Culture Association. We hosted this event online, and then thank you for your coming. Okay, so next I'm going to start introduce our 3 candidates running for 2 positions. Actually, there is also another current, doctor is current school board, Dr. Susie Abbasian. She's not a new candidate, but 4 of them running for 2 seats for South Pasadena School District. Okay, so I'm going to share screen with you guys regarding their introduction and their bio. So there is a website for all of them. Give me a little bit more time here. Let me finish that. Okay. So the first one I would like to start to introduce is Dr. Patricia Martins Miller. So here's the website I share with you guys. You can see from this website, she has all of her introductions, also her statement running for the board, and then biography. I just pick up some of the summary from her website, and then later I will give her opportunity to introduce herself. So she has been served in South Pasadena School District for, I think, 3 terms, back to many, many years ago. Maybe at that time I has been the, I think maybe not in the United States yet. And she served for so many years, and then she go to UCLA, working there with the team. Also, she has been the school principal, college professor for so many years. So her whole life has dedicated into education. I think all of her kids and grandparents all grown up in South Pasadena schools, South Pasadena community. So she loved this community. That's why she comes back to run and then working and then want to devote her life for our school district. Okay, so I just want to give the rest of the time, maybe 5 minutes, let her to go to introduce herself. Okay.
I want to begin by saying thank you to you for offering this opportunity for all of us to speak so everyone can get to know us better. Most everything you would want to know about me, you will find on that website, I think, but I would like to just say a little bit more about some of the aspects of what I've done in my past and what I'm hoping for the future. I've lived in South Pasadena since 1979. My husband and I moved here when our children were preschoolers because I had really 2 or 3 specific reasons for coming. Of course, a school district that had an excellent reputation. But at the time, I was also employed with Los Angeles Unified School District. And knowing that I was going to be a strong advocate for my children, I wanted to make sure that I was not putting them in a school where I was going to be advocating against my employer some of the time. And that part worked out really well. The third reason that I really thought a long time about South Pasadena was because I wanted to make sure that my children were in a school district that was really a community where they could walk to their friends, where they could see the people in the district on their own without having to be driven every place and having no independence. And finally, the most important criteria after the quality of education for me was that it would be a diverse community where they would be able to take on a global approach to what it means to be educated today. So for that reason, we chose to come here. You've talked about all of the things that I've done professionally. I've always been involved as a teacher and a principal in programs where we were working with multiple languages and supporting students at getting the best possible education, particularly when they came with experiences from another place and when perhaps they didn't speak English terribly fluently. So my expertise has always been in helping students achieve excellence in at least 2 languages. I'd also like to say that South Pasadena has been an enriching place in a lot of ways. And I especially appreciate that there is an interest here in bringing not only the education to the students, but also the cultures of the multiple groups represented here. I think that my children and my grandchildren now are receiving an education that really amplifies what it means to be living into the future instead of simply repeating the past. And I'm extremely proud of being able to run again and am very glad that you've invited us to speak. Thank you. I'm not hearing you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Patricia Miller. Thank you so much for your introduction. Okay. So next, I'm going to introduce Mr. Eric Gamel. So I'm going to share his website with us. Okay, so this is the homepage. If you guys go to his website, okay, you can see his name here. Okay, it's a very professional website. I really like it. Okay, so Mr. Eric Gamel has been the parents of 2 elementary school children. Okay, so he lived here also for a very long time, and then he has you know, been the good leader, and I believe he has been provide a lot of opportunities. Also, he's working together with local parents, students, and his you know, his kids, and then he valued you know, community volunteers, leaderships. So if go here, go to his next page. So we can see he has been a parent, a neighbor, and leader. Okay, so it's very clearly also state why he's qualified for improve, protect our schools. He has been the PTA executive board member for so many years, also serving as a board member of nonprofit, a lot of nonprofit, okay? Like me, I serve a lot of nonprofit too. And also ASYO for being a member and a coach for years. So I think, you know, he also have done so much for our neighbor, okay? So let's welcome Mr. Eric Gaumont to give us introduction about himself. Okay, Eric.
Thank you, and thank you very much for having this forum and giving us this opportunity. I hope you all were able to enjoy being outside again for one of the first times in a while since our air quality improved enough. I know my kids were climbing the walls this week when they couldn't spend their time outside. I'd like to give you a little bit more information about myself. As you said, my wife and I moved back to Southern California in 2012 when our oldest daughter was young, and we wanted to find a place where we could send our children to public schools. We value public education, and that was a very important part of why we chose to live in South Pasadena. So part of the background, as you said, after college, I founded an educational software company focused on visual learning for complex matters. We were able to get our first round of funding, and unfortunately in the early 2000s, by 2003, our second round of funding did not come through, and we were not able to make a product to market. Afterwards, I went back and I got my MBA and went into the for-profit world for a little while before realizing that my passion is in the nonprofit world. I was the former director of a nonprofit called Reach a Child. Our biggest program, and their biggest program still, is they put backpacks full of children's books into first responders vehicles so that when they're on the scene of an accident, a fire or anything, they have books to give to the kids to comfort them and take their mind off of everything that's going on around them. You highlighted some of my volunteering. Yes, I am a dedicated volunteer. My oldest daughter, Lucy, is in 4th grade. My youngest daughter, Georgia, is in 1st grade and went through the TK program. And every chance I get, every week, I volunteer in their classroom. I've been a member of the Arroyo Vista PTA for the last 4 years, serving as the VP of Wish Night for the last 3 years there. I volunteered with SPEF for their calls, was the school site liaison for Measure SP, as well as Measure S when those passed. As you saw, I'm on the AYSO region board of directors. I sit there as the director of coach instruction, as well as the director of the All-Star program. And then I'm also on the Dudes leadership board as one of the representatives from Arroyo Vista to the Dudes. And then finally, I serve on my college's alumni association board of directors still. So I have a strong and long history of giving back to my community through nonprofits, but also through establishing them for governance and oversight and accountability.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Eric Gaumont. Thank you for introduction. Okay, the last one, but not the least one, is Mr. Alan Reynolds, and he's here with us as well. So I'm going to share his website. I think it's here. Okay, so Alan also has been in our district and for so many years because he grown up here. He graduated actually back from high school 2012. If you see his website, you can see currently he living here with his wife and 3 kids in our school district. He's very young. He has very sharp website here. There is a tiger background, which is our logo of our high school. I really like it. So I'm gonna pass this to Alan. So Alan, you can just give audience introduction about yourself. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Melissa. Just a quick clarification. It did graduate in 2002, not 2012. Oh. So while I may be young, I'm not quite that young. And so I just wanted to, I get accused of that already enough. So it's a running joke with a lot of the other parents at the school in Monterey Hills. And previously at Arroyo Vista as well. But as it says, I grew up in South Pasadena, and a lot of the stories, like the one that Dr. Martinez Miller told about moving here, are ones that my parents told about why they moved here. And so I'm very familiar with that particular story. But when my parents decided to move out of town, they wanted something that didn't have quite so many stairs, and we live up in the hills. I ended up moving into the house I grew up in. And so I've pretty much lived in South Pasadena almost the entire 35 years I've been alive, with the exception of some time when I was in college. And I'll briefly apologize, as Mr. Gamel mentioned, we are able to be outside, and since I'm not at home right now, I'm outside. So if you hear dogs barking, it's because I'm just taking a moment away from a family event that got rescheduled. And so if there's a little bit of extra noise, I apologize. But I wanted to just reiterate, the history with the city. I did serve 2 terms with our Freeway and Transportation Commission, as well as a partial term with our Parks and Recreation Commission. And I have previously run for city council in the past. That was back a few years. But at this particular instance, given our situation, our schools, and now that I am a parent with students in our schools, I feel it is that much more important to be connected and give back to the community through the school board. And I definitely appreciate what our current school board members have gone through in these rather uncertain times. And I do note that a few of them are observing this forum that has been put together as well. And I hope that we all the 3 candidates that are here to speak, have the opportunity to not only impress the community at large, but also the school board members, which we may have the privilege of serving with in the near future. But one other thing I'd like to highlight is the opportunity I've had in interacting with the school has been driven significantly further through my son, who is on an IEP. This has meant that I've interacted with the school administration and the teachers, as well as other parents, on a level that I didn't expect, and not one that every other parent has the opportunity to. And something that came up in a recent parent-teacher conference this year over Zoom is that the IEP parents have a much more higher expectation of interaction with the teachers. And having talked with several other parents, I think it's important to emphasize the need of all parents in our school district to have that level of interaction with both the individual classroom teachers as well as the administration in order to get the most out of the school experience here in South Pasadena. And so just from a certain perspective, it might be noted that my website does not have a particular agenda or platform. And my goal is primarily, as someone who is not an educational professional, but someone who is primarily a parent, though somebody with a problem-solving background, to be available to listen and take the input from the community, from the students, from the teachers, from the families, and from the organizations in town, and then provide a way to voice that input to the board as well as to the community at large. So thank you again for this opportunity, as well as to the other candidates that are here and the other members of the school board.
Okay, thank you, Alan. It's great. Okay, so thank you for all of you introduce yourself to the audience, and we have basic information about yourself and experience. So our board already collect certain questions from all the parents, which so far we conduct, they registered. And then I just want to go ahead one by one. There is no order. So like if I read one questions, we started from Dr. Pat and then go to Eric and then Alan. The next question, Alan can be the first one to go start answer, okay? So actually the first question is already related to you guys' experience, but I'm gonna read, and if you want to add anything to your bio, which you just introduced, will be much better, okay? So the first question is, please highlight how your past experience, personal, professional, how prepare you to serve on school board? What experience do you have with helping institutions, organizations reach our goals? Give examples of the goals, how you contributed to accomplishing these goals, and by what kind of measure or measures you were successful. So we can start from Dr. Patricia.
So I'd like to start by saying that really my whole professional career has kind of prepared me for setting goals and having a role in realizing them and then carefully measuring whether or not we've succeeded. From the time I began teaching through my time as a school administrator, that's really what it's all about. How do we set goals and figure things out? Once I went to UCLA to work as director of faculty for the school management program, the whole of our work was helping schools and districts to improve the learning results for the students. And in order to do that, of course, it meant doing a lot of work helping them learn how to set goals and actually then measure whether or not they were achieving in real time, so they could make changes that would get a better result before a child's school year was over. It was interesting being at UCLA as a 3-time USC graduate, but turns out UCLA liked me fine for the work I was doing. And I really feel enriched by having had both sides of the city represented in my endeavors. I think probably the best predictor of how well I might do as a newly elected board member is past experience. And having spent 12 years on the school board during other times that were also times with a lot of work that we had to do and changing circumstances, I'm really pretty proud of 3 of the things that we accomplished specifically. One was in relation to how we hire and retain the most capable teachers. When I started on the board, the way that we accepted teachers for tenure after they had been here a couple of years, and we would say, yes, we want to have them here for a good long time, was simply to take a vote on the names that principals suggested to us. And we were not all satisfied with what happened some of the time as those teachers played out over the next few years. We had some really excellent teachers, but we had some others who needed more help. And we had wished they had gotten that help before they came to South Pasadena. So we started, I sponsored actually a board conversation asking the superintendent to have principals come to us and present their teachers for tenure with the evidence of the qualities that they brought to the task that made them super teachers for South Pasadena. And then we voted on the teachers based on the evidence that was provided. And I think it changed the focus of the way teachers perceived the tenure process and what it meant to actually do the job in a way that was really upholding what parents and their colleagues wanted. I think that that's still how the tenure question comes up in South Pasadena, though I'm not sure. If I'm elected, I guess I'll find out for sure. A second thing that was really important to me was that we had individual fundraising by school. And at the elementary level, where we have 3 different schools, there was not always an equitable sharing of resources. And we worked for a very long time, particularly working with the PTA Council, to have them begin to think about what it would mean to have elementary fundraising be a district-wide process for the most part. And I believe that still today, more than 20 years after, we don't have little Arroyo Vista, Monterey Hills, or Marengo carnivals and things to raise money. We do it as a big district event. And when COVID is past its current moment, I'm hoping to see another great opportunity for fundraising that gives an equitable opportunity for resources to be shared. And then finally, another thing that I would like to mention is that even though we're an achieving district, we have always had issues with some of the gaps for some of our students, particularly our Black and Latino students, who, when we measure their scores on standardized tests, particularly against what our white and Asian students achieve, there are huge differences. So it used to be that mostly the board heard data about how the district was doing as a whole and how the schools were doing, and we were always able to applaud and say, oh, great work, we're doing really well. When we started to actually look at some of the students who weren't doing as well as their peers, we really needed to take a look at their achievement and what was happening that was causing them not to learn as quickly and make that application as quickly. We knew it wasn't the fault of the kids. Kids are kids and kids are smart no matter what. It had to do with what was going on with the way we were presenting material and so forth. I'm excited actually about one thing, and that is that the state now also disaggregates its standardized test score results. And we get those results back now so that we can tell exactly how every group is doing. the big challenge then is to take a look at those results and use them to guide education. So those are three things I think are important. I also serve on a couple of boards, one of which is called Let's Talk Learning Differences, which particularly works with students who don't learn the same way a lot of kids learn, but still have tremendous capacity. And they're an exciting organization that I'd be happy to share their upcoming college conference, for example, that's going to be occurring next weekend over Zoom, where they prepare students who have been on IEPs all of their school life to really go forward and succeed at the college level. So thank you for giving me this time.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you for your answer. Thank you for your supplemental explanation for this answer. And I think I like your idea to have a voting committee for the teachers to give a tenure years, because tenure years is really big thing for all the teachers, right, for the whole life.
Right.
So I think
it's a responsibility of the board. So it's really important for the board to be clear on the qualities that we are giving tenure to.
Right. As far as I know, I don't think South Pasadena Unified School District has any kind of this voting committee anymore for tenure teacher.
Oh,
so,
no, the committee, it's not a public vote. It's a board vote. The board is the one who offers the tenure. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
That's how it is everywhere. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The other two candidates, Alan or Eric, you want to add your answers to this question?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to jump in real quick here.
Sure.
If that's all right with Eric. For this particular question in regards to past experiences, my job has been almost my entire career to find a way to connect disparate groups and find solutions. Giving specific examples is a little bit tough, but often it's not really my job to drive a job to completion, but much more to open doors and guide people in a direction for them to come to achievements themselves. And so it's much more of a discussion-based thing, which is somewhat valuable on a board, where it's not always about putting forward my solution as the best solution, but oftentimes it's just guiding a conversation in a certain direction and presenting new ideas. There may or may not be the best path, but might shift the path in a certain direction. And generally speaking, this has been something I've done in many cases, highlighting most recently, not too long ago on our Freeway and Transportation Commission. I don't necessarily feel that I was vital to our defeat of the 710 freeway, but I do feel that it was a group effort, and I'm very hesitant to necessarily take claim for achieving goals, but much more for raising questions and asking leading questions in order to guide people to potential solutions they may not have thought about. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of amending and speaking quickly. And I got a note that unfortunately I'm going to have to be leaving where I am right now. And as I mentioned to you, unfortunately, I don't have the opportunity to be doing this from home in the comfort, and I don't really feel comfortable doing this from the car. And so just if it's without any way of finding another way to contribute other than with the answers I previously gave you, unfortunately, I won't be able to go into more detail. But briefly in closing, I just want to mention that thank you again for the opportunity to speak, and that about the schools that are so much a part of my personal development over the years, as well as what will be for my children and the children of the other members of the school district. And the future of our children right now are very complicated in our current situation, and are as unwritten. And we want the best for our students as much as possible. And while I cannot give a more complete answers than what I provided to you via email, I hope that the information that you can receive here from the other candidates, as well as what I have written, as well as any opportunity for you to contact me directly, will lead to finding the best members of the school board that we can have for the upcoming term. And so thank you again, I appreciate it. And unfortunately, we'll have to let you go and speak with you some other time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Eric?
Yes, thank you very much. So, one of the questions you asked is what part of my professional and, my past experience, personal and professional. So as I said, I am a former director of a nonprofit and then a nonprofit consultant, and I specialize in strategic planning, board development, organizational development, and working with organizations on their mission, vision, and values. So some of that part is, talk about a couple of instances where I've worked strategically with organizations and had set goals, obviously. One of the organizations I've worked with, and I sat on the board of Domestic Abuse Intervention Services. They were the local domestic violence provider and domestic abuse service provider for Madison, Wisconsin, when I was living there. And at that point in time, they had a very small facility, and I led their facilities committee to choose a location and a site and a location and build a new 55-bed shelter for domestic violence victims in Madison, Wisconsin. And it was one of those things that it was very difficult to do. I'd sometimes pulling with my fellow board members, sometimes just pulling them along and saying, we need to do this. This is what our community needs, and getting them to agree with me. The other part, I served on a board of a nonprofit that was dedicated to providing services to at-risk families and children. And they were part of an organization and inside of a building that they co-owned with 3 other nonprofits. And I guided them through a merger so that all 4 nonprofits became one, so they could better serve their clients. As I said before, I have been a dedicated volunteer here in the community. And one of the things throughout my volunteerism, as well as my professional career, is I value listening and really seeking out the input of all the stakeholders before making a decision. And you talk about how you want to do that and how you get your goals. Really, that's what it comes down to. And also the other side of it is saying, when you see a problem, not just fixing it, but taking a step back and looking for the cause. Because if you can fix the cause of the problem, that problem won't come up again. And the only way to do that is to listen to everyone and seek input. So.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Eric. Okay, I'm going to shorten the answer time for maybe 2 or 3 minutes because we have so many questions. And then so we can, move on very fast, because I want to give 30 minutes to the current audience to give answer questions before we end, okay? The second question is, what experience do you have working with a diverse population of stakeholders in our community? Okay, so we can start from Eric.
Sure. Well, as I said, I am a nonprofit consultant. And when I go into work with any organization on, be it their board development, their organizational development, and their strategic planning, which can take, looking out 5-10 years where they want to be, we're looking at all of their stakeholders, and their stakeholders are diverse. And any nonprofit, you have their donors and their funders, you have their board of directors, you have the executive staff, you have their general staff, you have their clients, as well as the community at large. And you want to make sure that you're listening and valuing all those opinions as you set forth on what the organization is going to look like in the future. It's really, for myself, is saying, again, as I said, you really want to listen to everyone and take in as much information as possible, and then make the best decision for the organization and the best for all of the stakeholders.
All right. Okay. So, Alan, you want to add your answer to this question?
I believe we lost Alan.
I think we lost.
I think you'll have to read his answer.
Yeah. So, Dr. Patricia Miller, you want to add your answer?
Well, so I really look at diversity in a couple of different ways. And one of the ways is the way that Eric has described it, of all of the varying stakeholders with different kinds of responsibilities within an organization, but also looking at the ethnic diversity issues that might come up. So some of my nonprofit experience has been very similar to his, where really we are helping our clients with visioning, setting goals to reach their vision and measuring them, coming up with really engaging statements that will drive them to success. And then some of our work is actually specifically diversity work, where we work with communities, different ethnic groups and different language groups, to help them really unpack what it means to be part of a society like ours, where we are all here together and in it together. I would certainly concur with Eric that listening to points of view and really hearing them is probably the most important thing. So we develop a lot of protocols and norms for helping all the voices get in. I think the final thing I would say about it is that very often whatever kind of diversity you've got going on, even if it's just diversity of opinion. Very often people become married to the solutions they have in mind before they really think through what are the interests that are held by all of the groups. And so we work really hard to identify what the real interests are that people hold and to figure out solutions we can go forward with that may satisfy multiple interests, not just one interest or the other. We also work hard to look at the problems that surface and ask 5 or 6 whys about, well, why is this happening? Until we get down lower and lower into, oh, this is happening because these 3 reasons, another 4 reasons. And in the end, we usually are able to identify something that is causal for the bigger issues that are going on in the organization. And those solutions really help to keep a problem from coming back again.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Patricia Miller. And then I think Alan also, emailed me his answer in case he lost the connection. So I'm going to just go ahead and read his answer for second one. He says, yes, it is what I do every day, though in business sense, the stakeholders being large business, okay, like Boeing or the company I work for, various divisions, which the company, operations, production, engineering, procurement, and individuals in those departments. Additional experience comes from me as a city commissioner. There is a need to balance the voice that is loudest with those that do not have the time or inclination to speak, but still have perspectives to support. Okay, that's Alan's answer. All right, we're gonna move on to next question. So next one is a little bit specific related to school program. So is there any program or service in the school budget you are going to propose to cut for next school year? Of course, before you propose cut, is there any one new program you're thinking you're going to add to our schools? So we start from Eric.
Well, no, honestly, there is no program that I want to cut. I mean, obviously, we all know that there will be more than likely some budget constraints coming next year. Unless there is a wholesale change in how the federal and state government funds our education system. But no, we don't want to cut any programs. And what we need to do is identify new revenue sources and go for grants. The other thing we really need to do, and I don't think we do enough as a district, is leverage our community resources. We are the home of JPL scientists, Caltech scientists, movie producers, directors, musicians, and all those resources are there for us to overcome our budget shortfalls. So no, there are no programs that I would like to identify to cut at all. Now, obviously, at some point in time, we might get to that decision. And what you then do is look at all this, again, value all the stakeholders, ask all the questions, and make the decision that is what's best for every student and every family and every stakeholder. But no, there's nothing that I would propose cutting.
Okay, all right, Dr. Patricia Miller.
Well, I have to say that I'm in agreement with with Eric on this one. I would not propose or advocate cutting any programs, but realistically, he is also right that down the line, it may be something we have to consider. We know that budget considerations are going to be terrifically impacted by the times we're in right now. So as we think about them, of course, I would want to involve all of the community in thinking about how the programs, how they value the programs, but I'd also like to look at what the school district and parents consider success, so that we be sure not to cut the programs that are being the most successful for our students, because it's very important that we keep doing what we do well and not accidentally shoot ourselves in the foot. And I guess as far as new programs go, I think that what we have in South Pasadena are some wonderful programs that could be expanded. And I would, rather than introduce a new program that takes resources and interest away from some of the things that we need to grow to a more robust state, I would like to see us focus on those programs. First of all, meeting needs of students across the spectrum of student interests and so forth, but especially putting some real options into the global languages programs that we have going. I would like to see us expand the opportunities for dual immersion instruction in both Mandarin and Spanish, because we know there are many more people who would like to participate in those programs than we are able to accommodate at this point. I would also like to see us do something about building programs, particularly in Mandarin, where students who are not in dual immersion can have a continuous support for developing their Mandarin skills from the elementary level through high school. I think it's especially important for those students who are already at the middle school or high school that we have a program that is viable and teaches both literacy in their language and the cultural attributes that go with it. So.
All right. Thank you very much for your answer. And then we're gonna, I'm gonna read Alan, as Alan's still not on right now. So regarding for this question, his answer is, in speaking with TASB yesterday, which is a teacher union, a place to boost support in social mental health of both our students and teachers. Costs are hard to say, but a hard look at what we are outsourcing to discover if it might be more cost effective to do in-house, okay? That is the answer for this question. All right, I will move on to next question. So this one is a little bit similar. There is a little bit overlapping to the question we just answered. So what kind of educational innovations would you like to bring to South Pasadena students? And how do you propose making them a reality as a single board member? We start from Dr. Patricia Miller.
So first thing is, we don't really do anything as a single board member. So one of the most important characteristics of a board member is that you are able to elicit all of the interests and issues that your fellow board members hold and talk about them in a way that allows every voice to be heard. Once that happens, my experience has been that usually we are in agreement about the direction things need to go. And then you're a team, you're not just an individual. And I think tops on my list of innovations would be one that our district has already begun along with the State Department of Education. And that is really using project and problem-based instruction as the focus of how we do our work. All of the research tells us that students who actually produce things and solve problems on their own do more learning than the students who simply sit and listen to what others have done. Doesn't mean that it isn't important to learn basics and how to do the things that we all need to do well, but it does mean that we will learn them better and forever if we do them by making an application of those things we're learning and having a result be something we can all be proud of. I also know that it's important for us to be able to do these things with an integration across the curriculum so that there is a lot more opportunity for creativity and the arts to be involved in the things that we are proposing to do. So that would be my list.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Patricia. And then I think I'm gonna read Alan's answer and then we'll give to Eric, you can talk. So as I mentioned, I'm not presenting a vision or goals other than to listen. So let me know what innovations you would like us to look at. As a single board member, there is not much that can be done to make things a reality. It would be taking discussion and persuasion with other members of the board in order to accomplish the things. Okay, that's Alan's answer. So Eric, your answer.
So thank you. So as the father of 2 elementary school students, I'd love to see an expansion of the tech program and robotics into our elementary school. I know at Aurora Vista, they've started some, but if you think about the SPEF grant to bring the Google virtual reality to our kids and to bring that into and bring more technology into our classrooms. One of the bright sides, if you will, of this pandemic is we realize that our classrooms can be anywhere and that who presents to us and the programs that we have can be anywhere. And so there's no reason why once we are able to go back on campus, kids can't go spend the day in a classroom in Tanzania and can't go meet with kids in Australia and Southeast Asia, wherever it may be. And I want to make sure that we're able to bring all of those things to bear for them. And as you asked of how is a single board member, well, it's all about collaboration. It's all about communication and advocacy and convincing my fellow board members that this is a priority. And again, through that, if it's going to be a priority, well, we have to find a way to pay for it. And that's the looking out for new grants, looking for new funding sources for specific items so that we can bring as much to our children as we can. The other side of it, I think Pat brought it up with the idea of not so much new, but expanding. I'd like to see us expand our social and emotional wellness curriculum. I'd like to see us expand our diversity, equity, inclusion curriculum and bring it not just from the high school, but bring it into the middle and elementary schools. We are living in a very different time and a lot of things have changed. And I think we need to bring that education and that thought process to our kids.
Okay, thank you, Eric. And okay, so the next question is, there are a lot of challenges facing our schools right now. So my question for this candidate, says, assuming you are elected, what do you anticipate will be the most important need for our school board to address in your first year of office? Okay, we'll go to Eric, will be the first one.
Sure. So I think the first year, if you think about assuming, starting here in, December, which is when I would start if elected, you're looking at the reopening of schools, but more importantly, that the anticipated budget shortfall that we're going to face. And really figuring out how are you going to prioritize? How are we going to find new sources of revenue? How are we going to work with the federal and state governments so that we can make sure that they prioritize educational funding? But for me, you talk about the first year, I would talk about the first 4 years. We need to plan on where we want to be, not just in 2021, not just 2022, but where we as a district we want to be in 2025, so we can make the right decisions each year to get us along that path. Without a strategic plan, without thinking that far down, we're making decisions for just 1 year at a time. And that, in my opinion, will not lead to success. We need to plan 5 years, 10 years out to where we want to be as a district so that every year we can make the right decisions as a board to get us there.
All right. Thank you, Eric. And then Dr. Patricia Miller.
So I think Eric is certainly right. There are a lot of challenges facing us, and it will be really important to think about funding sources and influencing at the very top levels of government to make a difference. I think I will focus my response at this moment on what we need to be thinking about right now as we assess how students are learning and what we may need to do to support that learning, having made a huge shift to distance learning, and especially how they are faring emotionally. So I think right away, it will be important to start really checking on what are we measuring? How do we know what's happening? How do we gather the information about students' emotional health and how their families are supporting them? And what we might do as a district to, in real time and just in time, tweak our programs so that we are able to support more of what families need right now and what students also need. I would say that down the line, we need to continue that process. And I think we're all aware that the things that have been happening over the last few months, they will have a longer life than just when this is over. Putting emphasis on the social emotional well-being of the students into the future is going to be a very important task for the coming years.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Okay, all right, so I'm going to just go ahead and read Alan's answer here. So it's pretty short. The first in the office will be greatly impacted by COVID-19. We will have to address health concerns first, both those directly related to COVID-19 as well as the ancillary ones will be impacting people mental health and social-wise. Finding ways to address solutions and systems in these areas while being safe will be important priority. Okay, so thank you for, and the next one, it's about elective classes. So do you think we should open more elective classes like art, music courses in elementary schools, as well as world language classes? I think part of the answer, I think Dr. Patricia already addressed in the previous questions. But if you want to start it, add a little bit more, that'd be good.
Well, I think one of the things that I would say is that I think we need to really begin to think out of the box about how we help students achieve those things that we hope they will achieve. It isn't always with more courses and electives. Sometimes it's figuring out a way that making one choice doesn't cancel out an opportunity for a student to have another choice. Right now, some of the things that I hear from parents is that, oh my goodness, if my student takes this particular subject, he won't be able to be in music anymore, or won't be able to take art or some other thing. So I am hoping that we can really look internally at how teachers work together to integrate some of the things that we really want to be an outcome for all of our students, so that they all have experiences in art, music, variety of subject areas that are elective. We already do a pretty good job with all of these things. So we have a really robust canvas to draw on as we move to making more integration happen.
Okay, Eric?
So as many of you know, if you have elementary school teachers like myself, there is a wonderful arts rotation where, at least at Arroyo Vista, we start out with music with Mrs. Diggs, move to the visual arts with Mrs. Swanborn, and then to the performing arts with Mr. Mantle. And that is a fantastic rotation. Also through the Measure SP dollars, every elementary school campus is getting a dedicated arts classroom, which I think will be amazing and a much needed space, and also free up space for other things on campus. So if you think about when your children are during music and performing arts, at least at Arroyo Vista and other schools, there's a classroom where the MPR, the multipurpose room, is being used all day for them. That will be free up more space for that. For those of you that have volunteered with Mrs. Swanborn, she's pushing around a cart, going from classroom to classroom and rushing as she does, and almost barreling around corners, and it's not the best. So that will then again have a classroom to increase and provide a more robust program because they have a dedicated space. When you talk about world languages, it is something near and dear to me. I grew up, I was trilingual. My Spanish is no longer what it was. I spent my junior year of high school in Germany. I am fluent in German and Spanish and obviously English. And so it really is a passion of mine. I grew up and I'm trying to teach my children as best I can, through the languages. But I feel that is something that's best offered in an after-school program and clubs, because it allows children and the parents the opportunity to have a wider variety. Because if we try to bring in world languages to the elementary school, there's just not enough time in the academic day to provide that education. However, if there's an after school and the opportunity to take Mandarin, Japanese, Korean, Spanish, German, French, even Latin, which I had the unfortunate of taking in middle school, or any language at that point. And I think that's where we can leverage our community resources. I think SPEF does a wonderful job offering these kind of classes, and we can look at expanding them using the resources that we have in the community to provide that opportunity for our elementary school students, that they can then continue into middle school and high school and take those classes.
Right. Thank you. I think I really love your answer. Gave a lot of, fresh ideas how we're going to have more class for our schools. Okay. I'm so sorry. I don't know, Alan is still here or he's not coming back, because we have several parents suggest me not to read his answer because if he's going to show up. Okay, so I'm not going to continue to read. I'm respect the audience time. Okay, so next question is, do you think Zoom class online for elementary schools to be longer by 2 p.m.? Why online class for high school just limit to 50%? Online interaction, not 100%. Okay, so we start with Eric.
Sure. As the parent of 2 elementary school students, no, I don't think it should be longer. The 3+ hours they already spend on Zoom with their teachers is enough. Throughout this entire time, we've been trying to find ways to limit their screen time, and to have them have that much more is too much, in my opinion. If you think about their days on campus, they have multiple recesses, they have PE, they have lunch, they go to the library, they go to music, they bounce around. It gives them that kind of break. And if you try to keep them online and that focused for that long, I think we're really testing their social and emotional wellness at that point. I feel like the district itself has found a balance between the synchronous and the asynchronous. I do wish that at the secondary level, at the middle school and the high school, they were able to find a way to balance a wellness day with daily teacher interactions, to have a day where they check in with each of their teachers and then some time off for that intervention for those kids that need a little bit more extra, for their clubs, and also for the teachers to be able to interact with each other and build upon their professional development. But if you ask me for myself as a parent of 2 elementary school kids, for my first grader, that 3 hours that they're on from 8:30 to 11:30, and the same for my 4th grader, that's enough. They need a break from the screen. And as someone who spends most of his day on the screen, as an adult, I can't imagine asking our children to spend more time in front of a screen kind of interacting.
Yes, I have the same feeling too. My two kids, one is in college and one is in high school, already feel like, oh my God, I cannot open my eyes from the screen every day for almost like 8 hours. This is too much already. Okay, all right. Dr. Patricia Miller, you have some other answers to this question regarding the length online learning?
Well, I would simply add to what Eric has said that I would want to really investigate what is behind these two questions, because I am thinking that there are probably not too many parents who want their students spending more time on screen, whether we're talking about elementary, middle school, or high school students. But I'm going to guess that maybe what some parents would like to see is some kind of a slight shift in the way it's happening, because some of the things that they are noticing about how it's working out for their kids need to be addressed in a timely way. And so I would really propose that we look at how schedules are working for students, if it would be helpful to ask teachers to assess how they believe their students are doing, and what would be something to plug in that would help students of all different types, from the very self-directed to those who need a lot more guidance as they do their work, to be successful. So perhaps an opportunity, for example, for more than an office hour, maybe a little check back on the work that's done today, in order for students to really learn from their successes and apply them again, rather than doing something that gets turned in and they don't really know why something has happened. So I think it's important to ask parents and older students particularly, how's this working for you? What would help you make it work even better? And then asking teachers to think about those things and figure out what they might do within the scope of their own planning to, in real time, make a shift.
Yes, I think that's really, really good, because when we have interaction with the students, we got to know them, how do they feel about their facing the screens every day for so long, and then if they want longer time, what they want to do, right? I think It's a very important communication with the students right now, because we are now seeing them, teachers now seeing them every day, except parents. we are tired of them.
We're their teachers.
Yes. Okay, as we move on to the next question is regarding Proposition 15. If Proposition 15 pass, our school district will get $2.7 million to the budget, to the school budget. How do you like this money to be used under your leadership? And are you going to hire more teachers, open more school or new program for our students? Okay, we go to Dr. Patricia Miller as the first one.
So while whether or not Prop 15 passes, I would love to hire more teachers and create more programs. I think that we really need to be realistic about what the budget looks like. If you actually look at I think it says 2.78 million that we might get from Prop 15 if it passes, compared to our current budget of almost $51 million, that's a tiny proportion, about 5% perhaps, that we might have access to. And way back in January, when the school board proposed their budget for school year 2021, they already had to cut more than 4% out of the budget, which meant laying off employees, teachers, and others in order to show a balanced budget. So in reality, if Prop 15 passes, if we get this money, it will bring us back to only about 1% more than what we need to do to take our schools back to how we funded them last year. That 1% probably won't even address the issue of inflation. So I am fearful that we're going to have to use enormous creativity and also find ways of going for grants, find ways of finding other funding sources to really continue a fine program and build on it.
Right. Thank you. Okay. Eric, you want to add?
Yes, as Patricia said, that figure for the 2.78 is when it finally rolls out with all the delays for 2023, 2024, maybe even to 2025 before all of the delays are, again, if it passes. And again, yes, it will only at that point fill any potential budget shortfalls unless we see a change in how our federal and state governments fund public education. So we need to work with our fellow school districts and work to lobby Sacramento and lobby DC to change how we fund public education as a country and as a state. So if it does, as you say, you fill some of the budget shortfalls to keep us to where we are currently, the one thing that I would look to do and say is first is we need to look at increasing the percentage that we're putting in our reserves because we have to tap into those anytime there is a budget shortfall, and we have not been putting away as much money as we used to. So we want to make sure that we have that rainy day fund for anything. And then if there is any left over, you'd look to innovate and expand successful programs. You'd look to say, what are we doing well? What do we need? Do we need more intervention? Do we need, what programs are struggling? How can we give them more resources to succeed? And what programs are successful and how can we keep them successful? But again, it sounds wonderful to have $2.78 million additional, but in reality, it is not, it's not going to be that much. And that's unfortunate, again, unless we can find other funding sources, find other grants, and more importantly, fundamentally change how we as a state and a nation fund public education. Because if we can't change that, we're going to be in the same conversation every year. And we really need to be a driver of that in Sacramento and in DC.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for your answer. Okay, the next question is very specific regarding our high school Chinese program, which has been cut for past 3 years. I think you guys already know a little bit about it. And then there is also a link sent to you to get no details. So I'm going to read the question and you guys can answer. So South Pasadena High School Chinese program has been welcomed and liked by so many parents and then the students for past 15 years. And then it has been keep being cut for past 3 years, school years. Teachers has been laid off. You can also see so many parents support this program, which has been growing in our high school for the past 15 years, especially during the Marengo School has dual immersion program. Would you please support increase Chinese classes in our 5 schools after you've been elected? Okay, we go to Eric.
Sure. In regardings to the high school and the changes that were made, so the offerings of the high school are based on enrollment, and to my understanding, they get tweaked every year, and sometimes there's 1 or 2 more classes, but we are still offering a full course load of every level of Mandarin. And if I remember the statistic correctly that I saw, we actually had a lower enrollment this year than we did last year. Obviously, as you look forward, looking at the dual immersion programs at both Marengo and for Mandarin and in Spanish in Monterey Hills, as those kids hit high school, there's going to be a higher demand. And when there is a higher demand, we want to make sure that we have the ability in our budget to tweak and make sure we can offer and make those classes available to everyone. And as I said before, as far as world languages in the elementary schools. I really feel that that is an after-school program that can offer kids the opportunity to learn the languages that they choose, and putting it into the curriculum, which is already packed and the day is already so packed with stuff, is very difficult. So I would love to see us offer at every elementary school an after-school program in Spanish, Mandarin, and I'm a little biased, German, but that's less so important in the world today, but maybe Arabic as well, to really balance the world, and as offer as many as we can for that. But the Chinese program at the high school was adjusted this year and last year, and I do know that, and that was, from my understanding again, was because of enrollment. And we're still offering the full classes, and I want to make sure that everyone that wants to has the opportunity to take those classes, and as long as we can make that work.
Okay, all right, thank you, Eric. Dr. Patricia Miller.
So I think you already know from my previous answers that I absolutely support world languages, and particularly the program we have had for Mandarin speaking students. I actually differ a little bit with Eric on this particular question. My experience has been that to become thoroughly fluent at a level of being biliterate and bicultural in a language, you don't get there until you reach the equivalent of a high school graduate's capacity in both languages. That usually does not happen in an after-school program. There isn't enough time to devote to it, and other things take precedence, and you miss Chinese school if you play AYSO, and other things happen. So I would really like to see us keep as a part of our program the opportunities for students to work at a high level in their Chinese language classes. It is true that enrollment has something to do with it, but there are some creative ways, depending on the credentialing of the teachers we hire, where at the highest levels, subject matter credit and language credit could be attained at the same time. There's no reason that a social studies class can't be taught in Mandarin to speakers who are capable of speaking and reading and writing in Mandarin at a level that allows them to truly master both sides of the curriculum. There are other creative ways we can make this happen. I think one of the things I worry the most about is that in school systems, there are many, many rules. They come to you from the state, they come to you from the county, they come from all over the place. It's been my experience that when you want to make something happen, you have to figure out what is the intent of these rules and how do we meet that intent in a way that allows us to also offer what we want and need to offer. And that takes an interest in finding complex solutions that can work very effectively. But it means we have to put our minds to it and not just decide, oh, there's a rule against it, so we'll go on to something else.
So, right. Okay. Thank you, Patricia. Yes.
I'd like the opportunity to clarify something. I said so my opinion, yes, the dual immersion program that we currently have in Mandarin and in Spanish is something that I think the district should be proud of and we should continue to support. What I took the question to be is, should we expand our world language and our Mandarin program to the other two elementary schools and to all elementary school students? And for me, in that opinion, at that point, we need to look at that can be an after-school activity. It can, fitting it into the elementary school curriculum would be difficult. But the current dual immersion program that should be and is a sense of pride for the South Pass district. We are a very small district to have a dual immersion program and to make it work, and is something that we do need to continue and need to foster.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, next question is regarding an improper video which is showed on teacher's PowerPoint in 6th grade. So the question is, in 6th grade class, there is a teacher posts an improper video link on teacher's PowerPoint. The teacher says she did not show the whole video to the class, only a few minutes of some of class, and some parents already noticed the kids watch the video. The later part of the video contains LGBTQ sexual related content. Teacher claimed she did not watch the whole video. However, parents have big concern regarding this kind of material. Is this material parent approval or the district approval? What resource of this YouTube? So regarding this kind of things, if you're being elected as a board or you're working a board member, what do you think about it?
Well,
so yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Yes, go to you. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, when this first occurred, I had notice of it because someone shared it with me. So I watched the video right away. One does not expect a PBS video to be inappropriate, but upon looking at the whole thing, I would have to say that I would have found it, as a parent and as a school administrator, very inappropriate for 6th grade students. So I think the real question here is, what is the role that parents can play in the kinds of things their students are exposed to in the school setting? And so as far as I am aware, we do have some guidelines for what is appropriate within the school district. I think what happened in this particular case was somebody simply made a mistake, and I think we need to offer a little grace for the mistake and the fact that teacher apologized. And I am very sure no one else in this district will ever show a video that they have not watched to the end again. So maybe that part of the problem is solved. But I do believe that we need to take a new look at what the guidelines are, particularly since we are doing so much online now. And we're learning that we will continue to do a lot of things online as we move into going back to brick and mortar schools, because a lot of action is online. We need to update our guidelines, have parent input into it, but we also have to provide for students as the law in California says we must. So there will be some things that not all parents agree with that we are by law required to teach. Parents can opt out of sex education classes for their students if in fact those classes are about sexual health or about sexually transmitted diseases. By law, they cannot opt out of having their students involved in classes where they learn about LGBTQ issues. So we want to be very sure that parents have the opportunity to know exactly what those materials are, so that when their students encounter them, they are able to, at home, have the discussions that they need to have with their children to let them know about their own personal values and their beliefs. The school district has to abide by the law. We can't choose not to. So that's a hard answer for some things.
Okay. All right, Eric?
Yes, so I would hope that all teachers would review all materials, even if they're not showing the entire clip and the entire video to their class. Obviously, it was a mistake. And as you said, that the teacher only, the part that was, that families found offensive or inappropriate was not shown during class. And unfortunately, with the distance learning, these things happen. And ideally, they would have found a way to shorten the clip and only show that part and not link it to their PowerPoint. But as Patricia said, this allows the families themselves to have those conversations at home and talk about their own values, because the district itself has state guidelines and federal guidelines and county guidelines that they have to meet and that they have to teach to. And I think the state and the district does a fantastic job of putting together our curriculum. So with that said, I think if there is something that goes against, or that a family disagrees with, that the parent, that they would then take it upon themselves to teach their own child at that point and tell them what they believe and why, and allow the child to then say, again, learn the diversity and learn diversity of opinion and make a decision for themselves. My biggest hope is that when a child graduates from South Pasadena High School, that they have learned to be a critical thinker They have learned to think for themselves. They've learned to be problem solvers, and they've learned how to be good citizens of this global community, and that they're on a path for success for whatever that may be for them. And that onus is on us as parents, as well as the district and the teachers. But we can't pass off our responsibility as parents to teach our own children to the district.
Okay, thank you, Eric. I think the next question is also a little bit overlapping with the answers which you and Eric and Patricia and Eric just mentioned. So, but I still want to read out since the question already posed by the parents. Some parents have concern regarding existing gender identity curriculum from the district, which teaches boy's body with girl's brain. It will confuse the kids who before or in the puberty and cause the mental disorder named gender dysphoria. According to research by UCLA, more than 25% of children aged 12 to 17 in the state now classify themselves as gender non-conformation. For the concerned parents, do you agree parents opt out their children from this kind of curriculum? I think Patricia already answered part of it, but do you want to add in more?
I would just say that perhaps because we are going to abide by the law, because as a district we must, it really behooves us to offer opportunities for parents to learn about the materials and to perhaps even have some opportunities for parents to read some of the research on these matters. An issue that really scares me as a parent and grandparent is that we do know that one of the outcomes of not offering students the opportunity to be accepted in school, if they are in fact gender non-conforming, leads to a lot of emotional issues. And in fact, some of those same studies show that the suicide rate amongst young people who are gender nonconformist and do not find support for who they are within their schools is extraordinarily high. Knowing those things, we would do justice, I think, to all of the points of view that are held by offering opportunities for parents to learn together as well as knowing what's in the school curriculum.
Okay. Eric, you want to add some?
Yes, so no, as we said, the state does allow parents to opt out from the state mandated sexual health class in both middle school and high school, but that is the only option to opt out. And we do need to, the parents, that those that are concerned, and all parents should understand better what is being taught to their kids in the curriculum and spend time to learn, so that if they have differences of opinion or want to teach their kids about other things, that they can take that time at home and do that at home. But we need to make sure, again, as we said, is we need to make sure that we're preparing kids for the entire world and teaching them to think for themselves at every level. And really, it's a balance between what one is learning at home and what the parents' responsibility to educate their children, as well as the district's responsibility to educate the kids.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Next question is: with the rising enrollment, new buildings being built, what is your opinion on how South Pasadena should deal with class overcrowded? Have any of you thought about reopening the elementary school on Fremont? Okay, we'll go to Eric first.
So yes, funny enough, I had a conversation with my neighbor about this today, and specifically about the elementary school on Fremont. And as many of you know, when the district started the surveys about Measure SP and to put out a bond issue, the parents overwhelmingly said they didn't want to open another elementary school. They wanted to put that money into the 3 current school sites. Now, while opening a 4th elementary school adds capacity at the elementary level, it ends up creating a bottleneck because we haven't increased capacity at our middle or high school. So we really are going to have to, it fluctuates. If you look at our neighboring districts, some of them are at 60 or 70% capacity because problem for them. But also we have to look at what buildings are built and whether or not they are designed for for families, or they designed for individuals without children. And at that point, we can make the right decisions about where we expand if we need to. So it is wonderful that the district has a site that they can activate if needed, and if there is the need. But opening up a fourth elementary school allows for those 6 years of maybe some expansion, but creates, again, a problem when you get to the middle school and high school where there isn't more space. The other side of it is, I think we also need to wait until we have spent and built everything with Measure SP to reevaluate our capacity in our classrooms and as well as our school sites, because we are going to expand our capacity at all of our school sites. And until we do that, we won't have a better understanding of exactly where we need to add capacity in the future.
Okay, Dr. Patricia Miller.
So my answer would not be that different from Eric's. I will say that one of the things that we need to do is be clear on what we consider to be overcrowding. I think it would be worthwhile to find out what the parent perception is about overcrowding, and then what the district knows is overcrowding from the rules that we must follow about how many students can be in a classroom and how many students it takes to actually fund a teacher, things of that nature. But one of the things that is kind of ironic, Eric said he had a conversation about the school on Fremont today. I had that conversation as a board member in 1989. It's been a long time that people have been thinking, well, you have a closed school, why don't you just open it? And one of the things that people don't realize is that, first of all, there is an income stream from that school. It is actually leased and we make money on it. So if we were to reopen it as a South Pasadena school, we would have to somehow account for that money in some other way. Additionally, that school does not have to live up to quite the same standards as a South Pasadena Unified School District public school would have to live up to. And it is very costly to retrofit. So I would want us to really look at exactly where we are once we've spent the money from the bond issue, look at what is happening with enrollment. My personal experience as a principal in Los Angeles Unified was I shepherded the rebuilding of the elementary school next door to me that was going to relieve the overcrowding in an elementary school with 2,000 students. That school was built, lovely school. Now, looking back on it, districts are losing enrollment because enrollment patterns are different. There are many schools in Los Angeles Unified that are not only not overcrowded, they are underutilized. That's a very costly thing for a district as well. So this is a complex thing to manage, and we have to really take great care in learning all we can and figuring out the best way to use those facilities available to us to meet multiple needs.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Patricia, and thanks, Eric. So very good. There is a question, it's the last one. Also, I think the parents is audience too, and then he posted the chat out, but I'm going to raise up this question. So when looking at standardized testing data, there is a huge disparity in the scores between our white Asian students and our Black and Latino students. What specific actions will you going to take close this achievement gap in South Pasadena? Okay, we go to Eric first.
Sure. So yes, there is an achievement gap in South Pasadena, and it's something that we need to work on. And what I would look at saying is we need to do earlier targeted intervention to those students that are not keeping up, that aren't at the level, and to bring them to that level. We need to partner with community organizations that will help them and guide them and instruct them. But more importantly, we need to meet students where they are. We want to make sure that we are teaching the whole student and preparing them to succeed in their chosen future. We want to give them every opportunity to choose what their future is. But once they have chosen, or once they've gone down a path, we want to make sure that we help them through that path. And I think as a district, we are doing that to a certain extent, but we want to make sure we continue to do that. And really, it really starts at the elementary level. We want to make sure that those early intervention programs that we have at the elementary level are not only continued, but expanded upon, because we want to make sure that those students that are struggling early stop struggling before they get to the middle school and then don't continue to struggle once they get to high school. But it really is not just a district effort, it's going to be a community effort, because we want to make sure that everyone has one of the biggest things, I want to make sure everyone's excited to go to school every day. And they might be excited because of the arts program. They might be excited because we have a robust athletics program. But if you give a student a reason to be excited to go to school every day, they're going to want to stay there and they're going to want to excel. And really, it starts early and continues all the way through. But I want to make sure that we have students that every day wake up and are just excited to get to school. And it may only be excited because they're excited to see one teacher or one of their friends or one counselor or really even the principal. But I want to give everyone to make sure everyone has that reason to go. And if we do that, we can help close that achievement gap, especially with using targeted intervention early on.
All right. Okay. Dr. Patricia Miller.
So the achievement gap is really an interesting concept, because not all of the students who don't achieve well on a standardized test actually have a gap in their learning. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that all of our teachers and our principals have a very robust understanding of how you look at the practical skills students are able to apply in real life situations, and set those right beside what it means to get an answer right on a standardized test and be assumed to know something because you did. If we cannot make the differentiation between kids who just are able to do well on a test and kids who actually have a need for some kind of intervention, then we will be targeting the wrong students with some of the wrong processes. Interestingly, when we look at the intervention research over time, we do not find very many students who actually flourish after entering intervention, or very many who actually ever exit intervention. And one of the significant reasons that particularly minority students give for not wanting to complete high school is that they are just tired of being put down in school and feeling as if they're not capable. So it's really important to know what they're good at and what they're not good at. The other thing that I would say is that we really need to do a lot of work with those of us who are professionals in education to help create opportunities for the things that students see in their own environment to be reflected as how we do business in school. Many of the tests, the standardized tests, do not represent what young students in particular know as what their life experience has taught them. And you can't answer a question on a standardized test well if the context doesn't help you know how to answer. So it's our responsibility to provide opportunities for the context that is built at home to also be reflected in the curriculum. Then we also need to look at what does it mean if a student is both a second language learner or a student of color or a student of low economic resources? I can remember all the way back to the time my own children were in school, when at the very first parent conference, if a child wasn't doing well, the suggestion was, well, you better hire a tutor. And I have to say that in my mind, the question I asked would be, well, then what would your job be if I'm hiring a tutor to teach my kids what's part of the curriculum? So I think the question becomes, how do we set up supports, whether we call them intervention or whatever we call them, that allow us to help the students get into success and get out of a program quickly, so they are just like all the other students in the class and succeeding beautifully. So it's a very complex issue.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Dr. Patricia Miller. I think your answer is really, really inspiring. I think the achievement gap has been a problem in our school district for so many years, especially as parents. As I know, there is so many parents worry about their ELD learners. And then they'll be in a program so many years, they couldn't get out, even though started from the middle school. And they don't have time to go to the mainstream classes to learn the courses which should credit to their college. That's a really big problem. And then, you know, since if you guys been elected, I hope there are some changes. Okay. So far, these are the questions which is we collected. So now I will going to open to the audience, and then I already saw there are several audience parents already post the questions here. I'm going to read, okay, and then I'll let you to answer. The first one is, there are so many issues currently, but have you identified as the highest priority issues for our school district board to address if you're being elected? Okay, so go to Dr. Patricia Miller.
Well, I think both Eric and I began by responding to a similar question, which was about our need to really pay attention to the emotional well-being and the learning of the students at this very moment. I would also concur with the response I heard from Eric that relates to the role that we have to play in lobbying at the state level and at the national level to increase funding so that we are a school district that has enough money to do right by our students. What I would say about that is that we already do some of that, but the role of the board in making something happen at the state level is not something that is necessarily going to benefit the students of today. It is something that will likely benefit their children. One of the reasons my grandchildren are here, because things we worked on when my kids were in school, they are now robust, successful programs. So I would want to pay very, very close attention to how we do the things we need to do to improve the quality of learning experience that all children have, not just the ones who are already successful in a more traditional manner, but the ones that can be reached if we have more kinds of hands-on activities, creative activities, where perhaps students are starting their own business and learning how to do things like that, where they're maybe taking on a community problem and bringing all their understanding of science and other things to the fore in order to solve that problem. So that would be my answer.
Okay, Eric?
No, as I think we said earlier, and you know, it really is to start assuming we get past our global pandemic and we are back on campuses, which will be a first task because I don't anticipate that happening, you know, before November, December in that sense. So that will be a big topic of discussion as to when we can safely reopen campuses and move on from that. But at that point, as you look for next year, the next budgeting, it really will be the budget and looking at how best we can find new resources and find new grants to maintain our programs, and not just maintain, but improve our programs. And that's going to be very difficult. And, you know, Patricia's right, we are already lobbying, but I think we can do more. And I think one of the things that we can do as a board and as a district is give our parents the right information and the right information to give to send to their representatives, because the more voices they hear, the better chance that our federal and state governments will reevaluate how we fund public education. You know, as I said earlier, my wife and I, we value public education. It's the reason why we chose to live in South Pasadena when we moved back to Southern California. We wanted our kids to go to public schools, and I want my kids to continue to go to public schools. If elected, I will start with a first and a fourth grader, and by the end of my term, I will have a fifth and an eighth grader. My kids will not have even reached the high school. So I truly have a vested interest to make sure that we can accomplish the goals now and for the future.
Okay, all right, thank you for your answer. Okay, next question okay, why are you running for school board? So we start from Eric, you want to answer first?
So yes, I mean, I started with it. I have been a dedicated volunteer, and I have seen the dedication of our teachers and our administrators and our staff to our kids. I saw my daughter's teachers, the fourth grade teachers, took them on a tour virtually this fall, 2 months ago, or a week ago or so, of their school. And seeing the custodian's face just to see some of the kids, was heartbreaking to me. But to see the front office and knowing they're at the school on campus without the kids has been horrible. It's just tough. And I see that dedication, and I want to bring that dedication to the board. I also realized that through my professional life, doing board development, a board of directors and a school board and any board needs to have diversity of thought. So currently at the moment, our current board is made up of two educators, 2 doctors, and a lawyer. So we have some diversity. But again, my background in strategic planning, my background in nonprofits allow that other voice to happen. You can't just have one set backgrounds, and you need to have diversity of thought and diversity of planning. But as I said, I have a vested interest. My kids are young and they're going to stay in the district, and I want them to be in the district, and I want the district to continue to grow and improve and get better as my kids get through elementary to the middle to the high school and beyond.
Okay, all right. Dr. Patricia Miller, you want to add to this question? Yeah, I know you already shared a lot.
Yes, I did, and don't want to have to talk too much, but I would say that some of my motivations are certainly the same as Eric's. One of the things that I know from my own experience previously on the board, however, is that it is really important when a hard question comes up to know what the next question is that needs to be asked, so you don't settle on a solution that looks simple, but in effect will just become tomorrow's next problem. And so I have also had a tremendous amount of experience with strategic planning, as we call it. And interestingly, at UCLA, our work was largely with schools and districts, but we also did a great deal of work with nonprofits and other organizations, even in our work with the Anderson School, working with some business clients. It is really important to have a vision. It's really important to know how you get there and to have mechanisms for checking up, to do constant real-time assessment of what's going on right now, and look to the future so that you see what you need to do down the line and be prepared for that. And I just think it would be useful to bring us back to something that was started those many years ago, which was an actual participation process for decision making that included all stakeholders in a meaningful way. And we got through some very thorny issues in ways that built our district as a family. And I want to see that same kind of family feeling for my grandchildren. And
okay.
Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you for your answers. I think really motivative and encouraging. Okay, next question is, our libraries were eliminated at elementary schools without any input from the community. How do you feel about that? Okay, we go to Patricia.
So eliminated as library sites, but not eliminated as classroom libraries. Is that true? I believe it is.
I think they're talking about libraries at the elementary school has been eliminated.
Okay. So I feel sad because if all other things are equal, I would really like to see us having a library experience for students at the school site. I'm also well aware that libraries in elementary schools need to be kind of rethought from the point of view of how do we take very computer literate students and internet specialists into a library and teach them how to find the joy in the printed page at the same time they grow in their capacity to do research in a way that most of us were not taught to do it, because it was not a digital world when many of us were at the university level in particular. So I'm sad to see libraries go. I would be very happy to see libraries reinstated as total media opportunities, much as the high school has been doing over time. I think it is, as a kid who actually set my goal of reading through every book in the library when I was in elementary school. That's a sad thing for me.
Okay. Eric, you want to add your answer?
Yes. So obviously, with a global pandemic and campuses being closed, cuts had to be made. And unfortunately, an on-campus librarian at the elementary school sites when kids aren't there is not the best use of our budget when we're not having that. And I say this as a parent of a fourth grader who is a ferocious reader, to the point where my wife and I both tell her to stop reading and go play with your younger sister because the younger sister needs some attention. We actually, as Patricia said, you know, classroom libraries are still open, and my fourth grade teacher's library is open, and we picked up 2 books yesterday from her, and my daughter's already finished both of them. So we'll pick up hopefully some more books next week. Because yes, it is important. It is important to get the kids to read. And it's important to get the kids, especially in this sense, at a time that they're not looking at a screen. And a book is a fantastic way to do that. So I am lucky. I will say both my girls love to read, my oldest especially, and they love the librarians at the school. They love the Ink Drinker book club we had at Arroyo Vista. And it's my understanding that, you know, and my hope that these are temporary, that when we come back and you look at our budget next year and we are on campus, that we will bring the librarians back. It's also my understanding that all 3 of the elementary school librarians are still employed with the district. I know it is true for one because my daughter said, "Oh, Miss Baidalin's in my class," because she is an instructional aide for a student in my daughter's class. So luckily, we still have those 3 wonderful librarians in the district. And then if budgets allow, which I hope they will, and I will make a priority because I see the value of the school librarians, and we get back to campus, when we get back to campus, we will be able to reinstate the librarian program at the elementary schools.
Okay. Thank you for both of you's strong willingness to bring the books back to our schools. Okay, I feel so happy. All right, next question is, what challenge or challenges the school board or district is facing right now? What differences will you make to the district? The challenges to the school board, and then the differences it will make to the school district. So we start with Eric.
Sure. I mean, I think we've gone over this a number of times, you know, or a couple times here. It is obviously the current global pandemic and what distance learning looks like. And I think one of the things that we can bring as we look at this is, for myself, it's the idea of collaboration and proactive outreach and proactive communication. So not just outward communication, but going out and seeking input and listening to all our stakeholders. I personally plan between now and the election over the next, you know, in the month of October, to hold 4 or 5 open, informational meetings on Zoom for people to come meet me. And I pledge to continue that, if elected, to hold monthly meetings. Hopefully at some point it won't be with a screen and we can meet at Jones's or Caldy or in front of the library and talk. But I want to be out there and listen. So I think that is one way to kind of talk about it. But you know, that's one thing I will bring to the board, is that dedication and that ability to bring the outward communication and accessibility. But the challenges are there. And once we are able to go back to campus, you know, we're going to look again next year for our budgets. But even now, I think the biggest thing that we need to look at and be is flexible. We've now had more than a 10th, I think at this point, 15% of our school year is gone by in distance learning. And what are the lessons that we've learned? What has worked and what hasn't? And we need to realize that maybe we need to make some changes. And that might be in a classroom change. I've seen it with my own daughters. The teachers have tweaked things just a little bit here and there. But I think even as a district, we need to be able to say, are there things that we can tweak and make different, both from the teacher side and the school board side and the parent side, community side, to make sure that during this time where we can't be on campus, that our kids can be successful. You know, one of the things I've always said is that we need to be constantly, and I always believed, and every time as I talk with my clients, is you need to be constantly reevaluating what you're doing. The worst sentence in the English language is, we've always done it that way. That's how we always do it. Because if you're not reevaluating, if you're not adapting, if you're not changing, you're not going to continue to succeed. You're not going to continue to innovate. And especially as we look to a post-pandemic world, what we did in the past isn't going to work. We need to innovate and we need to continue to evolve.
All right. Thank you for your great answer. And then Patricia, you want to add your answer to this question?
Well, I would concur pretty much with what Eric said. I think I would add that it would be very important, in addition to holding meetings where we are able to hear the voices of parents and other stakeholders, we need to be certain that we establish protocols and processes by which district meetings and other things that the district does together can actually ensure that every voice is heard. I think one of the hardest things I've noticed with working with the clients that I've worked with is how we get enough trust inside an organization so that we are clear that we can say what we need to say without judgment, so our voice can be heard, and that we all understand that the ultimate solution may not be the one I suggested, but can be one that meets the interests that I held, and coming together to collaborate in a way that isn't compromise, because with a compromise, everybody gives up a little bit of something, but is actually a collaboration where we put things together to make a better product than we had ever had before. That's the direction that I would really like to go.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Patricia Miller and Eric, the answer. And then there's, I think, last question from the audience is, with regard to diversity performance gap, is essential that minority students see teachers look like them? Isn't part of reducing the performance gap hiring more diverse group of teachers? I think he means that if we hire more diversity teachers, teach the students who have, longer or whatever deep gap, maybe that's make things better. So that's the question. So we go to Patricia.
So I would absolutely agree that students at every level need to see people who teach them who are of the same background and ethnicity as they are. I don't think we go to one-to-one correspondence necessarily, but we make certain that every student can feel that, oh, I could be a teacher too, or this thing that my teacher is really interested in, gee, I could go in that direction as well. So yes, I think that that's a very important thing. I'm also very concerned that we have the opportunity for diversity of thinking to be honored at the school level. When we all accept the differences that each of us brings to the table in a way that shows that we appreciate those differences, then we move a long way toward a student feeling accepted and part of the school community. And I think that's really the essence of things, feeling like I have a model that I can emulate and feeling like I'm part of a supportive community. And I can make a mistake and not have to live with it forever. I can learn from it, and I can get up and move on more strongly because I'm in a community that supports my learning from the things I do.
Thank you. Eric?
So yes, no, I fully agree. There's a lot of research that says if students can see themselves in their teacher, they are more likely to succeed. And I do know that the district itself is working on that, and that they have a plan. And as a member of the school board, I would say I would support obviously that plan, but also extend it that we need to look at our administrators and make sure that we have diversity within our administrators and and honestly, we need to look at our PTAs and make sure that we're getting all of the voices and all of a full representation within our PTA, within our classroom volunteers, within our entire community. I know right now at Arroyo Vista, we are launching an equity and inclusion committee to make sure that we do that. This past year, we also launched, and I helped launch a English as a second language community. So making sure that we are reaching out and making sure that we're translating and connecting with all those individuals and specifying for, at least for Arroyo Vista, those Spanish-speaking families, the Mandarin-speaking families, and the Korean-speaking families to make sure that they know what's going on and that they have a point of contact as they get more information and don't know, well, what is the false saying and what is this? And so they have a person they can go out and ask and find out. And that person can translate in, some of the more important documents to them, because we need to include everyone at every level. So it's looking at diversity for the students, for the teachers, the administrator, and the parents.
Okay, thank you for your answer. I think that's all for the questions we got so far from parents and the audience. And then right now it's almost 9 o'clock. I want to thank Dr. Patricia, Mila, and Eric stayed so long time to answer the questions. I think you are the most important people, and then, you know, probably already tired. It's been a long time. I think we have a very good forum, and then now we are clearly knows our candidates who ran for the school board. And then I think, you know, after several forum you guys have done for the community, I think the audience parents already choose who they want to vote. So I do wish both of you guys good luck. And we're looking forward on the board and working together with you after you've been elected. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you
you
for the audience. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Bye.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.
Should be updating.